What's up, guys, and welcome back to the doctor's office. I am Dr. K.O.A. Knight, here to give you proper diagnosis and prognosis and everything comics and comic book characters. And you guys already know what it is. We are still locked in the mutant madness, so comic book characters you may or may not know about. Today, we are talking about Fatale. Not much is known about Fatale, like with her childhood or her youth, or how she came to be Dark Beast's most trusted servant. And it is actually quite possible that Dark Beast actually created her himself. Now, at one point, Dark Beast did take a lot of interest in Bishop, and he even went so far as to send Fatale to a bar / restaurant that Bishop used to frequent, and to try to get her to get closer to him so that they could capture him. And she had ended up scanning his brain to find his ideal woman, changed her appearance to fit that, and called herself Pamela Greenwood. But she didn't get any closer to him, and he felt like there was something familiar about her, but he never really pursued his interest in her. So that plan of hers kind of just fell through entirely. Sometime later, Havoc was losing control of his powers, and Dark Beast took an interest in him because he felt like because he was losing control of his powers, he would be able to brainwash him a little bit easier. So he sent Fatale to go capture Havoc. Havoc was in love and knew a woman named Scarlett McKenzie who had died years prior. And so Fatale actually took the appearance of Scarlett and tried to lure Havoc in. And of course, with this reappearance of this woman that he knew and loved, he left his team X Factor to try to go and see what the hell was really going on, and she tried to capture him. However, X Factor, with the help of Yukio, actually squashed that whole entire situation and freed Havoc, and Fatale ended up having to leave. Later on, Dark Beast used a mutant named Random to capture Havoc, succeeded in whatever their plan was at that time, and Fatale brought Havoc to Dark Beast. After his visit to the Age of Apocalypse, Bishop was having nightmares, and he felt like Pamela Greenwood was connected to it in some way. So he went to her apartment to confront her about the situation, and she revealed herself to be Fatale, and the two fought. However, Real Beast, had ended up showing up and getting into the fight, so Dark Beast called Fatale out of there so that he could formulate a completely different plan. His plan was to infiltrate the Xmen, so he kidnapped Beast and took his place as an Xmen, and when Onslaught had attacked, he revealed himself as Dark Beast and basically tried to pledge his allegiance and services to Onslaught. So it was not Onslaught, but it was Dark Beast, Fatale, Random, and brainwashed Havoc that formed the Dark Descendants, and they ended up going up against X Factor. Well, they got defeated by X Factor. Dark Beast and Fatale got sent to prison, while Random and Havoc ended up escaping. Later on, Fatale is seen actually as one of the mercenaries who is trying to murder Elektra. Havoc, who at this time was still brainwashed, decided to start his own brotherhood. So he ended up teaming up with a mutant who is a teleporter and a telepath named Ever, and they ended up breaking Fatale and Dark Beast out of prison. Now, he knew Dark Beast experiments were still going on. He didn't really care about that. They formed the Brotherhood, and he told Fatale that he chose Fatale and Dark Beast over Ever and wanted them to join his Brotherhood. They did so, but literally a few weeks after the group was formed, they got disbanded by Havoc after he found Dark Beast's secret lab and noticed that he was still doing these crazy ass experiments outside of the experiments that Havoc already knew he was performing. So he felt a little bit betrayed there. He tried to get Fatale to come with him, but Fatale chose Dark Beast's side, and they got into it, and she got defeated by Havoc. Now, when M-Day came about, she was one of the mutants who was depowered, but they all assumed that the government is who had something to do with M-Day going on. So they had created this mutant terrorist cell called XL. And in replacement of her powers, she used her fighting skills, blades, and guns to basically perform whatever else they needed to perform as a bunch of terrorists. At this time, she was with Blob, and Blob tried to take food from Multiple Man and Richter, which resulted in a fight. And she kind of just like jumped in the middle of it and ended up cutting one of Multiple Man's clones with a poison-tipped blade. They ended up fleeing in a car. However, the car hit an uncovered manhole that was uncovered by Wolfsbane and Strongarm Man, I think it's what his name is. And the car flipped and she was thrown from the car. But the two groups, Blob, Richter, Multiple Man, her, like they all started fighting again before all of them ended up retreating. During the whole situation with the Terrigen Mist and all of that stuff going on with Quicksilver, who had like wanted to like power himself back up with the Terrigen crystals, she was repowered with the Terrigen Mist, which isn't supposed to happen. And she did end up fighting a group of people, and afterwards her powers started to wear off, and they started to destabilize. And one of the mutants who was with her, his name was Elijah, had exploded literally seconds before this. So a mutant named Abyss had thrown them into the Brimstone dimension. They were going up against Madrox and Valerie Cooper. Elijah had literally exploded seconds before. Abyss put them in the Brimstone dimension. He was hoping that the Brimstone dimension would stabilize or depower them so that they didn't explode. But after they were sent to the dimension, the status of their powers and even their lives was unknown to both Madrox and Valerie Cooper. And it actually turns out that Abyss was correct. Time completely froze around them in the Brimstone dimension, preventing them from escaping. Well, not escaping, but preventing them from exploding. And a man named Thomas Hoffman had built a machine, went into the Brimstone dimension, and got the both of them, captured them, and started draining them of their energies, leaving them completely powerless. And his name is Terrence Hoffman. I'm not really sure where Thomas Hoffman came from. I just knew that it started with a fucking T. Okay, shut up. So Hoffman was about to like basically dissect her and take all of her powers to power himself up when Polaris and X-Factor ended up showing up to help rescue all of the mutants that he had captured, not really knowing their identities. Fatale did end up escaping, trying to find Reaper and Abyss, and she did try to kill Hoffman for what he did to them, but Polaris stopped her. And then she was basically saying that everything that happened was Quicksilver's fault, which is not a lie. And they wanted to fight Quicksilver so bad, so they really actually started fighting Quicksilver before Polaris got involved and told them to knock this shit off. And they said that they would never forgive Quicksilver for what he did to them, which was powering them up with the crystals anyway, and essentially fucking their bodies up. Now, at this time, Quicksilver is actually part of X-Factor, because, of course, you know, he spent more time with everybody else than he ever did with the Brotherhood of Mutants. So, anyway, so Fatale ended up coming to the press conference that X-Factor had publicly and announced that Quicksilver was the entire reason behind the crimes that involved the Terrigen Mists, and that it was essentially all his fault, and he caused the death of a lot of mutants by using the the crystals and the Terrigen Mist to try to give them their powers back simply because he didn't want to not have his powers. Polaris tried to have her arrested and detained, but Quicksilver like held him back and was like, she's not lying, she's totally right, I did do it. So now, when the mutant nation of Krakoa was established, all of the mutants were invited to come there. However, Fatale decided that she was going to join Madeline Pryor and the rest of the people who wanted to go with Madeline in like the Limbo Embassy, and that's basically where she's at. As for her powers, she had light manipulation, regeneration, and teleportation. So how are you feeling about this character? I think she's a really cool character. I think her design is really cool. However, for somebody who was quite possibly just made by Dark Beast for whatever reason, I didn't really care for her in the stories that she was in. I really don't think she's that well written because they didn't really give her a personality outside of just being a servant. And I think that they probably could have done more. I did feel bad for her when she got depowered on M-Day. and Quicksilver, like, falsely gave her powers, which ended up fucking with her body, and so, like, she can't have her powers anymore. I think that sucks. Because Quicksilver just had absolutely no regard for anybody, and he was being completely selfish, which is the whole reason that House of M started, being completely selfish. Now, when it came to Decimation / M-Day, that was Magneto's fault. But, you know, whatever. I'm indifferent about this character. Again, they didn't really give her a personality outside of just being subservient and being a servant to whoever the hell she was with. So, but that is it for this character. And that is it for your weekly visit to the doctor's office.